Colonel, it's me, Snake.
Check out those leaves falling off, Snake.
So, due to the nature of Metal Gear Solid, I'm gonna have to get political in this video. If relatively moderately central political opinions upset you, click off the video. Anyways, disclaimer over. Enjoy the video. Kojima wanted to end the story as far back as MGS1, where the characters learn not to be tied to genes, but rather the lives they choose to live. But then, of course, that game ended up blowing up in popularity. So, as a result, Metal Gear Solid 2 exists as a weird anti-sequel. A game about a Metal Gear Solid fan character having an existential crisis, but learns to find his own identity. That's where Metal Gear Solid was meant to end. But then, as the game was both insanely successful, but very divisive at the time, Kojima was obligated back into a Metal Gear Solid 3, a game where he finally gives the player that male power fantasy again, only to brutally murder it right in front of them, while at the same time also wrapping the whole series around a full circle. However, due to very extreme fan pressure, some of which involving, believe it or not, real death threats, and no doubt pressure from his publisher Konami, Kojima had to make a Metal Gear Solid 4, a definitive ending for a franchise that wasn't meant to have one. And yet, no matter what his feelings were, Kojima had to finish the story. His solution was an albino monkey. You know, I've been really dreading this one. I wish there were an easy way to describe my feelings on Metal Gear Solid 4. Unfortunately, though, the game I'm discussing is Metal Gear Solid 4. For one thing, playing this game is already kind of a pain in the ass. You see, Metal Gear Solid 4 was a big PS3 exclusive video game.
I'm talking about that PS Triple.
And as of making this video, that's where it currently still is. Meaning that as of currently, to this day, MGS4 is locked to the PS3. Now, there have been rumors and winks and nudges by the real people at Konami that Metal Gear Solid 4 might eventually get ported to the Master Collection Volume 2. But until that day comes, assuming it does come, MGS4 is still a PS3 exclusive video game. This means I have to go through the nightmare of recording games on PS3, a console that infamously requires a splitter to record with because Sony didn't want people pirating Blu-ray movies. So, you know, that's fun. But beyond those technical hurdles, Metal Gear Solid 4 is also just a baffling game, which is saying a lot because this is a Metal Gear Solid we're talking about here. But where the baffling elements of the previous games felt intentional, and usually pretty metatextual, Metal Gear Solid 4 is kind of a mess. By all means, this game should be, and kind of is, a disaster. But it's also kind of a beautiful mess, and ironically, the perfect ending to the series. MGS4 is a very weird game. It's as perfect as it is flawed. And it's a game best described as the worst 10 out of 10 ever. And by the end, I think you'll agree if you don't already. So grab some popcorn, because trust me, you'll need it. The cutscenes are very long in this game. So first of all, before anything else, you gotta go through a 16-minute installation screen featuring Solid Snake just smoking a ciggy. By the way, it is kind of funny. We are 4 mainline games in, but Solid Snake, the main character, is only fully playable in 2 of them. So it's nice having a Metal Gear Solid game where the main character is fully playable again. Anyways, the installation ends with a very cheeky "kept you waiting, huh?"
Kept you waiting, huh?
We fade into what might be my favorite main menu in the whole series. The place here is Arlington National Cemetery, which is the largest military cemetery in the US. People like JFK and William Howard Taft are buried here, and coincidentally, in the Metal Gear lore, so is the boss. Or at least her tombstone is. Her body's a bit of a different story. But cut to the here and now, where Solid Snake is, staring at tombstones over a haunting melody. Man, this song is so melancholic. It's beautiful. Man, already, this game is one emotional roller coaster. Well, let's press new game and start this thing up, shall we? So our game begins in a really weird place, with a bunch of military-themed TV shows and commercials. There's a military-themed workout show, a military-themed cooking show. whatever the fuck this is, it's very obviously influenced by RoboCop, making fun of the commonplace of violence in media, which, yeah, I guess is a series trademark at this point.
And Canada's total population's
LLM, lot of Lil Money's technology.
But I really do like the whole disorienting, flipping through the channels vibe going on here, showcasing just how commercialized war has gotten. But of course, that would never happen in this. Valentine's season, a season of love. And there's no greater love than the love of sound. And sometimes it's accompanied by the sound of war. But can love truly bloom on a battlefield? Well, honestly, I couldn't tell you. However, I do know about Raycon's everyday earbuds and how they're perfect for the gym, work, or codec calls. Snake, your Raycons have a 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity. Multi-point connectivity? Yes, it allows you to pair with 2 devices at once. On top of that, the Raycons include active noise cancellation. Active noise cancellation, huh? Isn't ANC a pretty pricey feature? Normally it would be, but not for Raycon, Snake. And they start at just half the price of other premium audio brands too. On top of that, they're also weatherproof and sweat resistant. Yeah, you know how sweaty I get on these missions, Sonicon. Oh, and of course, check out these protective case covers. The Raycons already have a lot of unique colors. I chose black because all black fit is the perfect attire. But you pair that with the Raycons protective case cover. I like my Raycons drippy, bruh. There's literally tap functions too, so you can be like a Solid Snake but in real life. And if you go to buyraycon.com/Dumpsville, you can get up to 20% off site-wide. That's right, no joke. 20% off everything, including 20% off all headphones too, when you go to buyraycon.com/Dumpsville. So don't waste any more time and buy yours today. Anyway, so the real game opens somewhere in the Middle East, with a backdrop of dusty-ass piss filters. We see a convoy of what looks like Middle Eastern rebels, and we hear the monologue of an all-too-familiar voice.
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity.
We hear Snake's famous lament about how war has changed, and how with the rise of technology, war has become more and more vapid.
It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine.
It's a really bleak speech, and there's a reason why it's so iconic. And admittedly, considering the military-industrial complex, yeah, it hits home. I mean, when a defense manufacturer like Raytheon is making $67 billion, it's a nice reminder of what the real intentions behind war lobbying is.
ID tag soldiers carry ID tagged weapons, use ID tag gear.
Oh hey, funny story about that too. That's real now. Thank you, Kojima, for predicting the future again. We also get an illusion of what this game might be about.
Genetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control.
Snake here is very subtly referring to the previous 3 games. Metal Gear Solid 1 is about genetic control.
You can't fight your genes. It's fate. All living things are born for the sole purpose of passing on their parents' genes.
Metal Gear Solid 2, meanwhile, is about information control.
You want to control human thought? Human behavior?
Of course. Anything can be quantified nowadays.
And Metal Gear Solid 3 is about emotion control.
It was all a lie. I tricked you.
And now here's MGS4, which is apparently about battlefield control. Ah, well, color me intrigued on that end, especially when this is by far the bleakest intro in the whole series. Now, reminder, during this time, the War on Terror was in full force. No doubt due to a certain,
Reminds me of that tragedy.
We are post 9/11.
So not only did war fiction take on a certain, hoorah, boys, we gotta stop Al-Qaeda with Optimus Prime, but you also saw the rise of games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Counter-Strike, even something like a Halo or Killzone. Even Medal of Honor came back to rip off Call of Duty and sucked. But thankfully, there was a GOAT, Shadow Ops Red Mercury.
As an operator in the volatile world of Black Ops, you never know who the hell to trust. Chain of command, spies, this is Frank Hayden. Welcome to my nightmare.
Works influenced by the War on Terror started really emerging during this time. And Metal Gear Solid 4 is, of course, taking the piss out of it, or rather putting the piss in the filter. Of course, Kojima would have changed his mind if he played Shadow Ops Red Mercury.
When the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
We then get this ultra clean gameplay transition, like damn! Which in 2008 and even kinda now, it's really impressive. Like damn, okay, we're just in the game now, I guess. Except wait, no, because we crawl under the truck and immediately fade to a cutscene. Well, so much for seamless transition, I guess. But thankfully we do again get seamlessly back into gameplay. For about 2 steps, of course, before another cutscene happens. Wow, this is more jarring than usual. But whatever moves the story, I guess. But then suddenly the soldiers hear something. What? Oh, well, that can't be good. But what the hell is that noise anyways? Well, thankfully, we're right about to find out. These are the geckos, the freaky new military weapon. Emphasis on the freaky, by the way. I mean, look at these thick-ass legs and the weird cow-like noises they make. And the worst part, we're back to gameplay and gotta run from them for about 5 more seconds before another cutscene happens. Okay, come on, this is kind of overboard. Like, I know it's a Metal Gear Solid game, and they're known for their cutscenes, but the games at least let me to breathe a little bit at first. Like, take Metal Gear Solid 3, for example. Yeah, there's that whole 15-minute Halo drop and the mission briefing and everything. Then you get brief gameplay where you get your backpack and then a really long codec call setting up the boss. But then after that, there's a pretty fair mix of gameplay and cutscene here. And most of the cutscenes are more so there to teach you gameplay mechanics. It just felt more tasteful previously. With MGS4 though, I can't say the same here. This is just a cutscene after cutscene, man. Like, come on. Anyway, so Snake attempts to take a smoke break, only for blood to drip on him, and he's right below a gecko. So yeah, no doubt, they're after us and the chase is still on. And you know what? I still can't deny, even if the implementation's a bit sloppier, these cutscenes are still great. Especially when we get that full reveal of our badass old Snake, only to jump back to a desperate chase, showing just how dangerous and hard to kill these gecko things are. However, on the verge of being surrounded, Snake hides under that cardboard box which reads, "No place for Hideo." Or does he? Because craftily, Snake fills it with a bunch of watermelons. Where'd he get all them from? I don't fucking know. They probably shoved up that giant ass of his or something. Holy hell! How do you even get it to look like that? What? Cut to 3 days earlier, with Solid Snake saluting someone's tombstone, just like a Big Boss did at the end of MGS3. And just in case it wasn't clear, you can press the X button to remember that part. Metal Gear Solid 4 includes a lot of this, by the way. Press X to have a flashback to remember the previous event. And honestly, I'm a little mixed on this feature. I can't lie, it is really helpful with how convoluted these games are, but I'm also the kind of guy to rest his hands on the sides of the controller during cutscenes, so these flashback QuickTime thingies can get pretty annoying sometimes, unless you want to face the consequence of a character staring out into space for seconds at a time. I know it came out like 16 years later, but I prefer what a game like a Final Fantasy 16 does, where you can pause the game and get small little tidbits on the lore of the world, which allows the pacing and flow of the story to not be interrupted, but still allows the game's world to have that clarity. My point is, while this is kinda helpful, I don't really want it in any game ever again.
So anything that takes away the power of your mind is keeping you still.
Anyways, well, suddenly a helicopter comes down and greets Snake, and out from the helicopter emerges Otacon, my boy.
Otacon, even the dead have ears.
Snake, we've got to go.
By the way, you may have noticed, Snake is really old for some reason, and there's a good reason for that. You see, despite being 42 years old by now, Snake is suffering from rapid aging, and no one really knows the cause at all.
Your early aging symptoms look like classic Werner syndrome, but none of the tests were able to pinpoint the cause.
Furthermore, the only doctor who can properly diagnose Snake is Dr. Naomi Hunter. However, she's currently completely MIA, which means for now we're saying, fuck it, we ball, Benjamin Button with guns. But speaking of old men though, guess who's in the helicopter waiting for us?
Snake.
Oh man, it's the old bastard Colonel Campbell.
Well, I'm not a colonel anymore, Snake.
I think what's funnier is that this is the first time we've seen Colonel Campbell up close in front of us. Finally, the PS3 can render him. But Campbell isn't just here to show us his face textures. No, there's a very real reason he's here.
We found him. In the Middle East.
Liquid Snake is back, and he plans an insurrection, whatever that means. However, to find out what it means, you gotta watch a mission briefing first, which is viewable separately in the main menu. This harkens back to Metal Gear Solid 1, which again, I don't like at all. Why can't you give me information like this in the actual game? MGS3 did this right. But anyways, long story short, there's been a massive rise in PMCs.
PMCs? private military companies.
Due to the quote-unquote Manhattan incident, which is the ending of Metal Gear Solid 2. And when I say PMCs have grown, I mean they have grown, phasing out conventional militaries and fueling an all-new era of the war economy. In fact, PMCs are such big business that
currently 5 of them are big enough to be labeled global powers.
Shit, dog, that's big money. I gotta get on this now. It also results in a boost of child soldiers, so but turns out the big 5 PMCs are actually run by a dummy company. And that company is run by Liquid Snake, or Ocelot, or Liquid Ocelot. Point is, Liquid is gonna use the massive army of the 5 biggest PMCs to start an insurrection. And Campbell wants us to kill him. So despite being literally one big unsanctioned military operation, the fate of the world is literally at stake here. So Snake reluctantly agrees to all this.
Liquid is lying in wait in a Middle Eastern war zone. Track him down.
So, first order of business, meet up with Rat Patrol 1, a PMC investigation unit. And so, as we fade back to the Middle East setting, that's gonna be our main order of business for now. We also finally get real gameplay in this thing. Again, I tend to try and focus more on the story than the gameplay in this thing, but Metal Gear Solid 4 is a good game. It's an evolution of the MGS3 formula with new moves and new tech, like being able to crouch walk and roll, or the brand new Octo Camo, the brand new camo system that changes dynamically, depending on the surface you're pressed up against. Eventually you get the Solid Eye, which gives you night vision. Otacon gives you this through his little Metal Gear Mark II droid, which you can also use in gameplay to your advantage. Also, rations are back on top of regenerative healing like in MGS3. Metal Gear Solid 4 includes old mechanics from MGS 1 and 2, and MGS3 mechanics, but this time refined with a few new tricks added on top. This is on top of that classic Metal Gear Solid crazy detail. As a result, this mechanically should be the best in the series. But the issue is, a lot of these mechanics don't show up very long, and don't feel like they're utilized to their fullest. Part of this problem also stems from the game being a very cutscene focused. So you get like, what, less than 60% of gameplay here? I don't mind narrative-driven games. In fact, I love them, but compared to MGS 2 and 3, this feels more inconsistent, especially when you get to the actual bad parts of the game, but we'll get to that later. As of right now, though, we wander into this room and see an albino monkey.
Pretty sweet, huh?
This is where we meet Drebin, one of the characters ever. He's a black market arms dealer.
I'm a gun launderer.
One of the many Drebins in the world.
Me, I'm Drebin number 893.
Who's addicted to drinking soda. He is pretty helpful though, as he upgrades our nanomachine so we can shoot the guns in this game, bypassing the whole ID system. However, it will not be for free, hence introducing the gun market mechanic of the game. A mechanic that exists, I guess. On that note, the same goes for the character of Drebin himself. A character who's helpful, I guess. But aside from that, as we'll see throughout the game, there isn't much to him, which is weird comparing the rest of the cast of this series. You had tons of fun, enjoyable, lovable characters you wanted to know more about, but Drebin just kinda exists, I guess. I do think he's conceptually funny though, because his whole character is just
Geneva Chain, the first fully AI layer 2 blockchain built on the war economy by war criminals for war criminals. PMC Plenty Money Contractors Technology, proof of ID tagged weapon software, child soldier cred entry scan system.
So Drebin heads out and that's about it.
I have you.
And we're back to finding Rat Patrol 1. But before we do though, I gotta mention the music and how hit or miss it is. There are some absolutely great tracks on here, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, MGS4's soundtrack is pretty bland. Like, I can't say it's bad, it's composed well and works, but it's pretty weak compared to the rest of the series in my opinion. It's not a god-awful or anything, just more generic. And there are a couple bangers on here for sure, but most of these are more so for cinematic moments than actual gameplay. And as a result, the soundtrack resembles more of an epic music compilation than a Metal Gear game. I do think though the atmosphere is great. The sounds of bullets and soldiers screaming and random street fights and explosions all feel super visceral and really immerse you in this active war zone. Anyways, we then make it to this area here. One step closer to... Look, you know, I shouldn't be surprised. So after all that and long story short, we head into this building here and finally meet Rapatrol 1.
Drop your weapon.
Oh hey, I know that guy. That's the poo-poo man.
Drop your weapon.
All these damn friends of me, I'm gonna call a poo-poo man. You haven't even taken the safety off, rookie.
Oh hey, that's the Metal Gear Solid 1 line, right?
You haven't even taken the safety off, rookie.
Man, what a classic line that was. And also a bit of foreshadowing, as the moment Snake takes this guy down, we hear a very familiar voice.
Don't move. CQC. Real big boss, huh?
And apparently this woman knows ours too.
Fox.
Snake? Snake.
That's right, everyone. She's back.
Meryl.
Man, it's so good to see Meryl return in this game.
What happened to your face?
Hey, shut the fuck up. Yours didn't even move last time I saw you. So yeah, Meryl's the leader of Rat Patrol 1, alongside this guy who isn't important, this guy with the exclamation haircut, who also isn't really important, and then there's Johnny, aka Akiba, who is, you know, the poo-poo man.
Diarrhea.
And if the name Johnny sounds familiar, it should be, as it's the same name of the guy who had a poop in the first Metal Gear game. And don't forget about his dad, Johnny, in MGS3. So yeah, connecting all the dots really isn't hard. What is hard, though, is believing that Johnny is actually important to the story, which he is. So make sure you really remember this guy and his diarrhea problems. Anyways, finally, Snake and Meryl are back together.
You're all grown up.
Okay, Snake, don't phrase it like that, please.
Maybe it's because someone taught me well.
Oh yeah, Meryl bros, we're so back!
A certain legendary hero who suddenly disappeared.
Oh shit, never mind, there's some drama going on here. But that's fine, a bit of tension never hurt anybody.
Back then, I just wanted you to accept me. But I've put the past behind. I'm done playing little love games.
Alright, so clearly some developments in order here. But as of right now, we get a big ol' Kojima exposition dump about how the whole ID tagging system works. And the answer is, nanomachines. To make a very long story very simple and short, you get the nanomachine vaccine, and your body and combat performance is suddenly enhanced, at the expense that your personal data is constantly being tracked in real time. And by personal data, we mean, like, everything. Things from how much ammo you have, to how much water you drink. Even the breathing is monitored. Jesus, you can't have a VPN for that. And all of it collected by an AI. Oh no. This system is called the SOP, or Sons of the Patriots. And Meryl is weirdly comfortable with this.
It was creepy at first, knowing you're being watched 24/7, but I've gotten used to it. It gives us a lot of advantages in the field, too.
And for whatever reason, Liquid wants to Elon Musk the whole thing. And Meryl and her team have finally tracked him down. Except one new problem, Meryl has some beef with Campbell.
Don't tell me it's Campbell.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding. You expect me to work with my uncle?
So yeah, there's some more family drama here. The type of shit that makes Meryl crash out. It's also revealed that Campbell is Meryl's father. Or at least revealed to those who didn't get the Otacon ending back in 1998.
Meryl was my daughter.
What's a father?
So yeah, the family drama is thickening here.
Why are you still calling him Uncle?
You're still calling him Colonel.
He's your father.
What's a father?
As far as I'm concerned, we're still uncle and niece. I will never forgive that womanizing piece of shit.
Meryl.
Damn, something crazy's happening here. I never took the Colonel to be a womanizer, though. Not that I'd say he's entirely trustworthy, so I guess you really don't know a guy.
He, remarried.
Really?
His new wife's about my age.
Oh, well, that's interesting. We'll discuss all this later, because right now we're being ambushed.
It's the Frog.
His private troops.
Okay, seriously though, we're being attacked by these Frog unit people, who are in these enhanced power military suits and are all female for some reason. I'm not sure what Kojima meant by that, but long story short, we fight with Meryl and the Rat Patrol. Also, I can't deny here, this cutscene to gameplay transition is clean as a fuck.
That might feel nice. That definitely might feel nice.
We also get one last brief cutscene, showcasing Rat Patrol 1 doing some anime one-shot and everyone dies kind of shit. Well, all except for Johnny, who's of course being a dipshit. And turns out it's not just for show either, as the nanomachines inside their bodies let them communicate telepathically or some shit.
The nanomachine network inside each unit member's body lets us share each other's senses.
Look, I've just learned to not question it at this point. Anyways, we get very sad, brooding old Snake.
I'm no hero. Never was. Never will be.
Your body. Are you gonna be all right?
I mean, have you seen my ass? Pretty good. Anyways, we move forward and witness something important. That being a group of soldiers being completely pulverized. All by a robot wolf, a flying bird soldier, a woman octopus, and a four-armed woman soldier. And trust me, I'll have a lot to say on these four later. But right now, we gotta sneak around and track down Liquid. And so we reach this large enemy encampment. And sure enough, Liquid Ocelot is right there.
Liquid.
And bad news, he suspects we're here. Either that or it's just very convenient timing for what happens next.
Activate it.
And what happens next is a whole army going cuckoo crazy. From getting super painful headaches to extreme nausea to even whacking and killing each other. All except for Johnny, the poo-poo man, who seems to be unaffected. All while Liquid stands and watches next to this mysterious woman, who is clearly uncomfortable and walks off.
Refreshing, don't you think?
And honestly, you know, I have no clue why. You would think watching mass suffering is total Riz, but I guess not these days. Even Snake seems to be fighting his demons from the Perk 70s, I guess. Which eventually gets Liquid Ocelot's attention.
Brother, it's been too long. Rejoice! We're not copies of our father, after all.
Well, that's nice, Liquid. I'm glad you realize that now. Although I guess that does make his motivations pretty confusing. As being the inferior clone was like a big part of his motivations, I guess he's running off really petty fumes now.
Watch, Snake. Watch as I surpass my own origin.
But then suddenly that mysterious woman comes out. And of course, turns out it's Dr. Naomi from MGS1. And something tells us that she's not here by her own volition. Right now though, that doesn't matter as Johnny saves us but Liquid gets away. Thus ending our Middle Eastern trip preemptively. Fading us into our next mission briefing. Yeah, in between each act we get a mission briefing section. All taking place on our giant plane called the Nomad. With all of them, including the first one I talked about earlier, opening with some little girl cooking a bunch of eggs.
13, 21.
283, 84, 85, 687.
This little girl is named Sunny. She's the daughter of Olga. Remember her from Metal Gear Solid 2? Yeah, that child the Patriots took from her, that's Sunny. She's since been adopted by Otacon and cooks a lot of eggs, really terribly.
Remember the sun being so flat.
And this is why Snake isn't a father.
You really hurt her feelings.
Yeah. Why don't you teach her how to cook eggs then?
So Snake wakes up from being out all day. And yeah, whatever Liquid Ocelot was doing, it was real intense.
My body just seized up all of a sudden.
You were lucky. Some of those guys' hearts simply stopped.
And to make things more interesting, Otacon got a video from Naomi right afterwards. And yeah, sure enough, at least according to Naomi, she is not working with Liquid willingly.
I'm in South America. I've been captured and forced to do research. It's Liquid.
She then reveals Liquid's real goal, and that's to take over SOP, which means taking over the entire nanomachine system in the world. So I guess that Middle East incident was just the beta for that. Otacon also finds Naomi's location data, so we notify Colonel Campbell about all this, who officially confirms our next stop, South America.
Maybe I'll even have a smoke while I still can.
So Snake has arrived in South America and he's sneaking in, all while overhearing a conversation with Colonel Campbell. And there's a couple things to establish here. So remember that Patriots thing in MGS2 and how the members died over 100 years ago?
They're already dead. All 12 of them.
When did it happen?
Well, about 100 years ago.
Yeah, damn, what a cliffhanger, right? Well, you can just throw that away, I guess. Because turns out that information is kind of a load of shit.
The data we got from Arsenal Gear was a load of crap. 12 founders who have all been dead for 100 years. Give me a break. We know they exist today.
Well, so much for all that. With that being said, though, the AI is still running the show and shit. In fact, since MGS2, it's only gotten worse, as they now have complete total control.
Everything that Solidus feared 5 years ago. It's all come to pass.
Now, with the media and global opinion under complete control, not even the UN can stand up to them.
This is like George Orwell's book, 1984.
The irony is, apparently, Liquid Ocelot wants to break free of the Patriots. Yeah, don't forget, Ocelot was already an agent, but apparently he has ulterior motives on top of those ulterior motives.
I want to feel like
like it's raining on me, okay?
Which means, however, even more irony, as Snake now has to inadvertently kind of protect the Patriots AI system, or else the entirety of modern civilization will fall apart. This is in spite of, you know, everything that happened in MGS2. But I guess if the whole world is at stake, then I guess I'll let it slide. Also, fuck all that noise because Vamp is back. So I guess he didn't die drowning in the ocean in MGS2? Man, we're just walking back all sorts of stuff, aren't we?
Snake, could Vamp be immortal? Not a chance. This is the real world, not some fantasy game.
My life is like But all this retconning and walkbacks isn't even the craziest thing that happens here. Because right here, we are properly introduced to Campbell's new wife. The woman significantly younger than him. Which is already kind of crazy, so I don't know how-
Snake, there's someone I'd like you to meet. A member of the mission staff. Rosemary.
What?
Oh, no, this is classic Kojima. I know this one. This is the Vulcan Raven action figure moment thing. This is just a wink and a nudge to the fans, you know? It's gonna be some whole new character. It's gonna be a funny... That is... What the fuck?
Nice to meet you, Snake.
What the fuck is going on? Okay, so, Raiden is missing, I guess. And as a result, Campbell just moved in on Rose.
Jack disappeared, you just moved in on Rose.
I was consoling her over her loss.
Crazy hamburger!
She's young enough to be your daughter.
Yeah, lucky me.
Even Snake is like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Now I see why Meryl was so disgusted.
Meryl said something about me.
Yeah, I believe her words were, "I'll never forgive that womanizing piece of shit."
Wake up in the AM making G's like
Anyway, so we're gonna have to find Naomi, I guess. And to do so, we gotta... Look, I got a lot on my mind right now. I'm just wondering if Raiden's okay. Where is he, man?
Who is this? Snake. That voice.
Oh, well, apparently he's giving us a mysterious codec call. But hopefully he's doing all right.
Is this Jack?
Jack is dead.
Just give him some Midwest emo. He'll be fine. Now, Raiden's looking for Big Boss's remains, apparently. For a woman named Matka Plutku, aka Big Mama. Now, what do you think is Rose's reaction to all this?
Don't let him know I'm involved in this operation, okay? I think it would be best to just leave him alone for now.
So your missing boyfriend is still alive and you want to leave him alone still? My lord, this woman is for the streets. We also meet up with Drebin again, who literally is just stalking us now using nanomachines. Thankfully, though, he is honest about it, so I guess that's something. He also gives us a lot of very helpful exposition, including who those weird female soldiers were. These are the B&B unit, or the Beauty and the Beast unit, comprised of Laughing Octopus, Raging Raven, Crying Wolf, and Screaming Mantis.
Psycho Mantis.
Once again, I'll go more in depth on them a little later, but right now, TLDR, there are new bad guys for the game. So yeah, thanks Drebin for all that. But now it's time to find Dr. Naomi. And sure enough, TLDR, we find her. Although as we do, she starts tweaking out, so she might not be in the best shape herself.
Naomi.
Snake, you and I, neither of us can escape our fate.
Although you wouldn't know that from looking at her, as she seems to really be into the sexy nurse Halloween costume look.
What the fuck is wrong with the cameras, man? Show the angles right.
I haven't seen you since Shadow Moses. How long? 10 years?
9.
So once again, Naomi is held captive here, where she reveals that the SOP system can control soldiers' senses as well, meaning the way a soldier feels emotionally on the battlefield can be regulated in real time.
They can create an artificial combat high by releasing endorphins at the same time a soldier kills an enemy. Or they can suppress hormones to neutralize the soldier's emotions, prevent them from panicking and engaging in friendly fire or needless massacres.
This in turn means that the soldier crash out moment in the Middle East wasn't actually the nanomachines going berserk, but rather the literal exact opposite. The soldiers, now freed from the nanomachines, all started having extreme PTSD crash out. Side note, it's a weirdly similar plot point to the video game Haze. I say this so I have an excuse to mention Haze in a YouTube video.
Until that point, war was like a game to them. And then suddenly, reality came crashing down.
Wow, Kojima, incredibly subtle use of imagery here. Meanwhile, though, we find out Snake's body is worse than ever. Something we find out as Naomi does a procedure on him. Man, a good thing there are no guards around or anything.
Snake?
Oh my god, so sad. He looks amazing for his age. Okay, but on a genuinely more depressing note, Snake's body is killing itself, as it was designed to do so.
Your clones created for one purpose: war. And so, in order to prevent you from being abused by clients or stolen by the enemy, they shortened your lifespan and removed your ability to reproduce.
Not only that though, but Foxeye is still in Snake's body, and turns out it's mutating in a dangerous way. Remember, Foxeye only killed certain people on a genetic level. However, in Snake's dying body, the Foxeye will soon be killing anyone.
It'll become a killer virus that attacks untold numbers of victims.
And there's no cure or anything for this either. So yeah, really depressing shit, man.
How long is my body gonna hold out?
3 months at the most.
3 months.
And they just got worse. This, of course, means there's a lot more pressure on stopping Liquid, on account of, you know, Snake literally dying and causing a pandemic, potentially. Oh, and he also has random seizures throughout the game, which is due to something nanomachines. So Snake now has to take anti-nanomachine repressors. So yeah, you know, fun. But even so, Snake does not give up, and just keeps trucking on in the most solid Snake way possible.
You said yourself we mustn't allow ourselves to be chained to fate.
I can't slip free.
Then I'll free us both. Where's Liquid?
Hell fucking yeah, that's my goat. Naomi also elaborates on what Liquid's plan actually is. And sure enough, it's to go after the Patriots by taking over the SOP system and amassing an enhanced army that he can control.
He calls it Guns of the Patriots.
Guns of the Patriots.
Holy shit, that's the subtitle of the game. But then suddenly, Naomi starts crashing out and is conveniently taken away by enemy soldiers, which is where we encounter our first B&B unit member. This is Laughing Octopus, our first real boss fight of the game, which means I can finally fucking say it. The Beauty and the Beast unit fucking sucks. This is the ultimate example of what did Kojima mean by this, to the point where I can't even defend it. This is bad. So the idea is, on the outside, they're super violent mega soldiers. However, on the inside, they're actually smoking hot babes.
Word on the street says that beneath those ugly-ass suits, the B&Bs are real babes.
But they also have super sad, traumatic backstories, which you find out about after you beat them. However, unlike, for example, Sniper Wolf, this is laughably terrible, as the B&Bs have no actual characters to them at all. And these fights all start and end the exact same way. The bosses come in and have a monologue, very underwhelming monologues, I might add. There's even an F-word bomb. Ooh.
It's all so fucking hysterical. Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9.
You then go through the series' worst boss fights to date. Seriously, these bosses are some ass cheeks. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3 bosses, these aren't. There's no intense duels like Ocelot or The End. There's no using the Rykov mask to distract Volgin. No tricking enemies with the fake death pill and burning them from behind. No, instead you get bosses that are frustrating at worst and forgettable at best, and really don't offer anything in terms of creative gameplay freedom. So then you beat the boss and a sexy lady comes out of them, where they then proceed to have mental breakdowns and then kind of get over them and then be all sexy for whatever reason. And then they start following you, and you can either kill them right here in the area or keep having them chase you until you go to a giant white void where you can make them dance to J-pop and pose for sexy pictures. And then after they die, Drebin then calls you and gives you the most try-hard edgy backstory ever. It is absolutely ridiculous.
After they made her torture her family and friends, they made her kill him. The whole time they were forcing her to laugh, howl like some sort of demon.
Oh, so that's why Laughing Octopus is laughing. It's even weirder because previous games did indeed do this kind of thing really well. Like, for example, against Sniper Wolf, a character who was built up throughout the game and was seductive, sure, but to a much more grounded degree. And she was also able to tell her own story, so that also really helped. Even one-shots like a Fat Man or The Fury had something philosophical to say. But with the B&B units, Kojima literally just wrote the same character. The only thematic or philosophical idea being war crimes are bad. The whole B&B unit is completely awful in my opinion. And it's weird seeing Kojima fumble the bag when he got it so right the last time around. I wish I could only know what he was thinking. Like, seriously, what?
Where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas?
Well, either way, we blow up women and look for Naomi. And sure enough, we find her being taken away by Vamp. So Solid Snake then takes the shot and shoots Vamp in the head. This, of course, though, doesn't kill him and just makes him fall asleep for a minute.
I'll be taking in half.
Meanwhile, though, the combat in the area is getting more and more crazy. The nanomachine PTSD DDoS is happening, causing soldiers to trip out. The geckos are hopping in and shooting shit. But thankfully, Drebin's Lamborghini Urus is here to save Naomi and ourselves.
Need a lift?
This initiates a big old turret sequence where we blast our way through geeked up soldiers and geckos. It's a perfectly fine set piece, and there's not much else to say here. But then we crash the whip and shit. Thankfully, everyone's safe. The bad news, though, is we're surrounded by gecko. But then, on a nearby rooftop, we see a mysterious cyborg ninja.
Raiden.
Yep, that's right. Raiden's a cyborg ninja now, and he's able to take down all these geckos single-handedly. The scene is also kinda fucking awesome, by the way. It's dumb, acrobatic anime bullshit, and it's kinda great. It's also a great way of establishing just how different this Raiden is. I mean, last time we saw this guy, he was a bumbling, dorky idiot who just went through the biggest mental breakdown of his life. So I guess he has every right to be an emo cyborg ninja now. My heart bleeds black blood for you, Snake. And it really begs the question of who hurt this guy. Although I can't say it's, you know, hard to figure it out.
Snake, it's my turn to protect you.
So thankfully we're able to escape as Raiden distracts the enemies. All while Drebin just hides in his Lamborghini Urus, you fucking bastard. Also, Otacon and Naomi have sexual tension just out of nowhere. We also gotta go pick up Raiden real quick, who, bad news, is now tied up and face-to-face with Vamp, and who has a high-definition penis knife. Fan service is easier to swallow when the men get it too.
You too, immortal.
No, I just don't fear death.
Damn, this is what a heartbreak does to motherfuckers. You know, I can't even complain. This is kinda so stupid, it's awesome. So Raiden and Vamp have a very flashy duel for a minute, which ends in Raiden stabbing himself to knock Vamp out, and then Mario jumping into our helicopter. Bad news, though, he's vomiting cum and going into robo-cardiac arrest. Also, Vamp's regeneration is finally explained. God damn, about time. And the reason is...
the nanomachines in his
Okay,
body.
you know what? Take a shot every time the answer is nanomachines. Anyway, so Raiden needs a cum-infused blood or something. But he then tells us to go to Europe and meet Big Mama, transitioning us into our next mission briefing. We get a brief, wholesome scene of Naomi and Sunny cooking eggs together, where she gives Sunny a blue rose, a visual we saw back in South America. Wait a minute, hold on. First it was the Beauty and the Beast unit, and now a blue rose, which is also something from Beauty and the Beast. Throughout the game, there is not subtle allegory to Beauty and the Beast in this thing, and it is certainly, one of the attempts at allegory of all time. It's also really weird because one part of it is genuinely brilliant, but the other part is really, really forced. Of course, I won't spoil the game for you here, but I will say this, as you saw with the Beauty and the Beast unit, the part of the allegory is about how war turns people into monsters is really bad, and it really is just as ham-fisted as I'm making it out to be. Man, nothing says anti-war commentary like a sexy supermodels.
I shouldn't be laughing.
So anyways, turns out the key to SOP is Big Boss. Which, yeah, of course, why isn't it? But turns out Big Boss is also alive, albeit completely brain dead and kept in a lab in Europe. And conveniently, so is a large supply of cum that Raiden needs to survive. But uh-oh, Liquid is also on his way there, which means Eastern Europe is our next stop. But before that, we move to later that night, where Otacon and Naomi,
I used to be an anime otaku.
Oh.
This, might be Riz. Then he goes into Otacon being too scared to let Sunny go outside and shit. And Naomi's all like, no, you can't do that. She needs a real life outside. And then suddenly, Naomi wants to fuck Otacon.
No. Leave them off. It makes you look handsome.
They then fuck in a jet, and, yeah, that happens. Yeah, the chemistry is not great between these two. But in its defense, it's unintentionally really funny. Otacon has so much aura that not even Naomi can resist it. Bro just goes, I'm an anime otaku, and suddenly, break the dam! Release the river! So we enter into Totally Not Prague. Bad news though, one of the PMCs has the whole place under lockdown. So fighting the resistance and its leader, Big Mama, is gonna be a lot harder than normal. Thankfully though, in spite of a big old dramatic scene, Meryl's here to help us. And on top of that, we got face camo.
My cut is insane. Shout out to my barber, dog.
Which Snake uses to look younger than normal and do the funny meme video. It's also really funny how young Snake barely resembles MGS2 Snake. Like, these are two whole different ass people. Anyway, so in the meantime, Meryl hit up the president. So now she has a big ol' US Army team to help her dispose of Liquid. However, she also doesn't want this old ass Snake to get hurt. But even so, we all know Snake will not sit out for this one, even if Meryl really wants him to.
Just leave this to me. There's no need for you to put yourself in harm's way. Don't risk your life for no reason.
Now, I'm not really a fan of Meryl throughout the game, but this scene, though, is pretty great in my opinion. Especially on Meryl's end, it's really clear she isn't a rookie this time around, but she still cares deeply for Snake. But at the end of the day, she's still Meryl. She's still independent and strong-willed, but now she's no longer naive, but rather completely experienced. On the opposite end, you have Snake, who's kind of reverted back to his MGS1 nihilism, on account of him, you know, literally being on the verge of death. No matter what his philosophy or outlook will be, Snake is always the kind of guy to just talk himself down. And now that extends to even in near death.
I'm no hero. Never was. I'm just an old killer, hired to do some wet work.
And now we get to see an older, experienced Meryl confront that directly. One who still cares deeply for him, but she also maybe isn't the best at emotionally handling things. So seeing her blow up at him over shit she's probably dealt with before is really interesting. It also represents the mindset the fans are probably going through by now. Like Metal Gear Solid 2, the pressure of outdoing the previous game was certainly very high. So disappointing someone in the audience was going to be inevitable. This scene establishes, therefore, that the entire series is now past its prime. However, like old Snake, we've been dragged out to do one more entry, one more mission. But nostalgia won't remedy the inevitable death and aging of our lives.
Look, our ways of thinking might be different, but to me, you're still a legend, a hero. I know all about the things you did when you were young. I may have loved you once, but now you're just too damn senile to face the truth. Wake up and face reality. Old Snake.
So naturally, this is the last conversation we have between Snake and Meryl. Yeah, Snake and Meryl have no more development after this. That's actually insane. And in a game where a vampire has a penis knife in it, that's saying something. Wait, so you're telling me one of the best chemistry scenes in this game is Snake and Meryl together, and it's just never elaborated on again? Do you know how hard I mashed the square button for Meryl? But the pain somehow isn't over yet, because after this cutscene, you have to go through arguably the worst mission in all of Metal Gear history. Why is that, you may ask? Well, kids, can you say trailing mission? So, you know those missions where you gotta follow some guy but not be, like, detected by him and shit? And you know how absolutely nobody actually likes these missions? Well, unfortunately, apparently, Kojima did.
Why, Black Dynamite? Why?
So real quick, narratively, we're following a Resistance member to find Big Mama, but narratively, in the real world, I am trying not to kill myself. You spend so much time just following this dickhead around, but if you get spotted by him, he'll get spooked and try and kill you and run off, meaning you have to wander around until you find him again, which is very annoying. But then the game also throws enemies at you as well, and you gotta protect this guy from all the PMC soldiers roaming around. So on top of being a trailing mission, it's also an escort mission, and then you gotta do it again, but this time for someone who's in a disguise. Who, by the way, for a first-time player, you'll probably mistake for an enemy and end up knocking him out on accident. Which, you know, I did for demonstration purposes, of course. And Otacon won't tell you he's a spy unless he's awake, so good luck figuring out what to do, dumbass. It's both boring and frustrating. It's bustrating. I'm about to bustrate. This whole mission just completely sucks. There is no defending it. Thankfully, though, eventually it does end. Hopefully all that bullshit was worth it. Okay, let's regain our composure for a bit. So Snake infiltrates the Resistance hideout, and there's a very flashy fight scene, very nice, very good, very well choreographed. But then we meet Matka Plutku, Big Mama, the Resistance leader.
Very impressive, CQC, Snake. Call me Mama.
Oh, I will. Don't mind if I do.
Big Mama.
I want money, I want milk, I want to be held, I want to be comforted.
And it should not be hard to figure out who this is, by the way. Which, if you haven't guessed already, it's Eva from Metal Gear Solid 3. Now, last time we saw her, she kind of fucked us over, but that was also all the way back during the Cold War. And of course, now she's running a whole ass resistance. So you know what? 50 years does a lot to a motherfucker. Including us, apparently, as Eva tells us that she's straight up Snake's mother.
I am your mother.
What?
Surrogate mother.
That's an awfully cold way to put it.
Already, this brings the whole series full circle and recontextualizes it like crazy. Like in MGS1, when Liquid mentions some surrogate mother's uterus or something, you're kind of led to believe, okay, it's some random woman, I guess. But, no, he's talking about Eva. I know who that is. Eva! But it also leads to Eva kind of being one big exposition dump.
I'll explain everything.
And yeah, explain everything she does. So first off, remember Zero from MGS3? The British guy who was essentially your Colonel Campbell in the game? Yeah, turns out, he created the Patriots.
Zero.
The founder of the Patriots.
And if you think Zero creating the Illuminati is crazy, well, listen to this.
I was one of the founding members.
Eva was one of the founding members of the Patriots. Now, you may be asking, how the fuck did this happen? Well, again, Eva's here to be a massive exposition dump. And what happened was that Eva got kicked out of China. Because, reminder, the microfilm in MGS3 was a fake. But then, eventually, she found a Big Boss again. And apparently, Big Boss is more than fine with letting Eva come back into his life. Hey, you know what? Game is game. Meanwhile, with the Philosopher's Legacy money in the US's hands, Zero starts up the Patriots. But turns out, pretty much everyone from MGS3 is a part of this thing. Sigint, Paramedic, Ocelot, Eva, and a Big Boss. Yeah, no more mystery. These are the founding members of the Patriots, which is honestly a lot less scary than MGS2 made them out to be. But regardless, the original philosophy was to unite the entire world, as that's what Zero believed the boss wanted. And thinking back to MGS3, yeah, that isn't far off at all.
A world without communism or capitalism, that is the world I wanted to see.
Of course, the whole thing needed a kind of figurehead, and in turn, he made a Big Boss this messianic figure of the group, and used misinformation to turn him into an icon, successfully propping him up to become a figure beyond life itself. Until eventually, Zero got too powerful, and wanted something more resembling an authoritarian one-world government.
This is like George Orwell's.
Big Boss, though, wasn't fucking with this, causing Zero to go crazy. Starting off with straight up just cloning a Big Boss, with Eva being the surrogate mother, giving birth to Liquid and Solid Snake. Not Solidus Snake, though. I guess Zero got a different woman for that one. This caused the Big Boss to leave the Patriots, making a bunch of PMC companies in the middle of the ocean, because that's the solution to male loneliness. Well, meanwhile, Zero focused more and more on making the Patriots a global conquest effort, and this rift would end up ruining the world.
I cannot imagine that's what the boss would have wanted. They both misinterpreted her will. Opposing interpretations, each striving to realize the boss's will. This war they've caused is no different from any other human error in history. It all started with a tiny fork in the path and grew into a great rift.
Now, that's cool and thought-provoking and all, giving real commentary to conflict and human nature, and how it takes one small pebble in the road to ruin the entire world. But more importantly, who painted these pictures here? This also gives more context as to why Big Boss is a war criminal, because there's no doubt he legitimately wanted to fix the world. And of course, your closest colleague just cloning you out of spite probably didn't help things either. But here's a reminder, Big Boss is not a good person either. So this whole thing is essentially two crazy people driving the whole world and themselves to insanity.
Their intentions were fair, but their execution was flawed.
The history lesson then enters the current timeline that we know, where Big Boss tries overthrowing Zero, but Solid Snake stops him twice. But then, Zero put Big Boss in a cryogenic vegetable state, while meanwhile, Eva and Ocelot tried to free him, with the further intent of killing the rest of the Patriots. Step 1 was killing a paramedic, who was, at the time, doing experiments on who would become Grey Fox. So with the help of Naomi Hunter, yes, she was in on this too, Grey Fox was freed and Paramedic was subsequently killed by him. This event is also referenced in Metal Gear Solid 1, but now we have the added context of Dr. Clark is paramedic. Just ignore the use of he, him pronouns.
Dr. Clark?
Yes. He started the gene therapy project.
Oh, God!
Don't worry, though, because Metal Gear Solid 5 eventually retcons this.
This Dr. Clark is a complete ghost, even to others in his field. His age, where he comes from, that might not be his real name. And I can't even say for sure he's a he.
Furthermore, there's Sigyn, who would become Donald Anderson, who Ocelot tortured and killed, and we saw the dead, decomposing body of in MGS1. Turns out Ocelot, though, was fighting on his own terms. All because he loves Big Boss so much, apparently. Meanwhile, though, Zero's just kind of chilling, I guess. But the loss of Big Boss at all completely broke him. And as a result, he became something of an AI bro, and created the AI you saw in Metal Gear Solid 2. ChatGPT, generate me the war economy. And basically what you have is 4 AI AIs named after the initials of the presidents on Mount Rushmore.
GW, TJ, AL, and TR, as sort of a digital Mount Rushmore.
Who are all in turn connected to a kind of brain AI called John Doe. But one of the AIs, GW, was destroyed by us back in Metal Gear Solid 2. And as a result, the rest of the AIs tightened their grip on their control of the world. And now we have Ocelot, now completely mind-melted with Liquid Snake, trying to control that.
He may be Ocelot in physical form, but his mind is Liquid's.
Meanwhile, Eva, at her lowest point, met Raiden, who offered to help. And finally, Eva found the location of Big Boss's body. So, where is Big Boss now?
His body is alive, but his consciousness is locked away by nanomachines.
Yeah, of course, when are they not?
So technically speaking, he's not really brain dead.
You know what, though? This is real noble of Eva to do. I mean, what's more romantic than putting your vegetative body in the back of a truck?
We can't allow Liquid to inherit the same sins that corrupted Zero. Manipulating people's minds for the sake of his own ego.
But then, suddenly Snake gets a codec call. And mysteriously, Naomi is missing.
Snake, it's Naomi.
What happened?
She's gone. She's not in the Nomad anymore.
When?
Less than an hour ago.
Oh, and also Raiden has a new supply of blood cum. Yeah, it just kind of happened. Speaking of things just kind of happening, you know, only in Metal Gear can you really get commentary on the war economy and ideology, and the good guys getting fooled by an Eric Andre prank.
I'm going to buy a car today.
So yeah, bad news, the PMCs have found us, and are using goofy-ass, unserious hand robots to scout us. So now we gotta make a big ol' escape, with Eva, of course, choosing motorbike. Hell yeah! But first, she laments about the resistance, and what she says is really interesting.
All of these children are orphans. They work in arms factories. And when they grow up, they want to join a PMC.
Now, reminder, when this game came out, the modern military shooter was fully in vogue. Being a soldier was glorified to an extent, and it will always be there even if the intention is to fight against the big bad PMC companies. However, even if the reason for fighting as a soldier is just like revenge against big companies, here's a reminder that this logic is not far off from Big Bosses, a slope that led him down a very dark spiraling path. However, all that nuance is very hard to see in the face of the military entertainment complex.
Nowadays, anyone with a computer can get combat training. The FPS games that these children love are distributed for free by these companies.
Oh hey, that actually happened in the real world too. Whether it be an official US Army game like America's Army Proving Grounds, or an actual real military simulator. For example, you may have never heard of VBS before, and unless you actually have a government job, you'll likely never play it. That's because it's not so much a game, but rather a real military simulator, and is not allowed to be used for civilian use. What you probably have heard of, however, is the franchise that it spawned from. That franchise being Arma. And no, those games aren't free to play, but they are the prettied up retail versions of realistic combat sims that are one Steam page away from being in your hands.
It's so easy for them to get absorbed by these war games. And before they know it, they're in the PMCs holding real guns.
Now, it's of course not wrong to play these games, but it's important to ask, what kind of influence do these games have on you? And how long could it be till you're a pawn of a system that doesn't care about you, fighting other people's battles and wars? You are not immune to propaganda. Sadly, video games are one of the most lucrative forms of it. So be aware of how much your free time is influencing you as a person.
These kids end up fighting in proxy wars that have nothing to do with their own lives. They think it's cool to fight like this. After all, for them, it's only a game.
Furthermore, on Eva's end, this has to be a moment of self-awareness. She was, from a very young age, groomed into being a spy, but yet she also witnessed the boss's death and presumably her will too. Like Big Boss, she was deeply affected by the events of MGS3, and like Big Boss and the boss, she ended up getting fucked over and kicked out of her country. Through both MGS3 and the time with the Patriots, she's seen war tear people apart, and yet ironically, now she's seeing war be marketed to the younger generation. Compared to the Cold War era she lived in, it's a much bleaker world now. However, because we can fight back, it's not a hopeless one.
Zero is the cause of all this. Defeating Liquid won't change things. Unless we stop the Patriot system, the cycle will go unbroken.
And after all this, I won't lie, seeing Eva get back on her bike is hard as fuck. It's a fan service-y, sure, but I'm a fan and I am service, I don't care.
I only get off my bike when I fall in love. Call me Eva.
And thus commences one of my favorite chase scenes in the entire franchise. It is, on one hand, a tribute to the MGS3 Shagohod chase, which I failed to mention has a cinematic camera in that scene that you can turn on. But similarly, this whole section is so cinematic. And you know, I know that whole term gets thrown around a lot, but look at this shit, man. It's like I'm watching a movie, but I'm shooting during it, so it's like a game. This has also got to be one of the craziest mother-son bonding moments, by the way. I think my only complaint about this section is that it is too long and is broken up by too many loading screens. I get that this game is pushing the PS3 to its limits and all, but it's just kind of jarring going from explosive set piece to just suddenly silence. But then, uh-oh, we crash, causing Eva to get Metal Gear Solid 3 referenced in the stomach.
Eva, I need you.
Oh hey, I remember that scene. Snake then keeps Eva put in a safe place, while he goes to fight Raging Raven, another terrible fucking boss.
Give me your anger, Snake!
I think I had a much longer segment here, but this fight's so boring, who gives a shit? Grr, I'm a gamer, I'm tired of women. Then rescue Eva and head to the sewers. But bad news, Liquid's just waiting there smoking, waiting for us. And even worse, Naomi double-crossed us, meaning that Liquid now has Big Boss's body. So Snake tries fighting back, but Liquid has better CQC skills.
When it comes to CQC, I've got the upper hand.
I have aura, brother. Also, the AI we destroyed in MGS2, turns out Liquid just rebuilt it. This means we are totally fucked. That is until Meryl brings a whole ass army squad with her.
Hold it right there, Liquid!
And when I say squad, I'm not kidding. Look at how big this army is. Hey, wait a minute, that's the sound from Cars the video game. However, all the ID guns aren't working, meaning that Liquid has already won, in which we see the full extent of his new power. Which, by the way, this next part I'm gonna show you is the shortened version of all this.
Behold, guns of the Patriots. Bang! Bang!
This cutscene is kind of insane, really showing you the extent of Liquid's power and just how fucked everything is. But I also love Liquid's cartoon of bad guy gun noises here. This cutscene is a pure climactic Metal Gear in full force.
Do you see this, Cyril? We are victorious. Behold, guns of the Patriots.
Vamp then burns Big Boss's body, as now Liquid has no more need for it. Eva then dramatically burns herself for whatever reason. You know what? It's a Metal Gear game. I don't question this stuff anymore. Snake also burns the side of his face, which, no, not his sexy face. But all this causes Liquid to get away. And man, that was a really dramatic scene. I hope it's not immediately followed up by a dumb creative decision.
It's all right. Call me Johnny.
Okay, so what happens is Johnny saves Meryl and performs CPR on her. He then takes off his mask and go war, he's a hot. And then this happens. And the two of them stare at each other like a heavy rain loading screen, and I wonder why my god Kojima would abandon me like this. Meryl and Johnny might actually be like the most insulting thing in this game. For one thing, falling for a hot guy who just saved her is out of character for Meryl to do. I mean, in Metal Gear Solid 1, she literally tells Snake.
When I joined up, they gave me psychotherapy to destroy my interest in men.
And sure, she does ironically fall in love with Snake by the end, but that was kind of the point. Meryl and Snake didn't get together because he saved hates her from Metal Gear Psycho Mantis. And it certainly wasn't because he was hot, but rather because the two of them grew and bonded together, and both learned to live life on their own terms, which tied into the game's themes of living the life you want to live. Meanwhile, Meryl and Johnny barely have any actual chemistry before this, and even after this, there is one more scene with these two. So Meryl and Johnny falling in love literally comes out of nowhere. And on top of that, Meryl falls in love with the Joke character. The character whose entire character trait is that he poops his pants and diarrhea. Is Kojima, like, fucking with me? I wouldn't put it past him, because this is easily, like, one of the worst ideas the series has ever come up with.
Where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas?
Anyway, so Eva says her last words and dies, and Drebin saves us, which takes us to our next mission briefing, where things are bleaker than ever before now. But Otacon managed to record Liquid saying something about Rex, and wanting to launch a nuclear strike, and since SOP only controls firearms and not nuclear weapons, that can only mean one thing.
He's going to use Rex.
Yeah, you heard Otacon. Liquid is going to use Metal Gear Rex, and there's only one place it could possibly be.
Shadow Moses Island.
However, after the mission briefing, it's very obvious Snake's body is getting worse, on top of Liquid's own total control of the system.
Face it, Snake. We've lost.
No. We started this, and it's our duty to finish it.
Snake then walks to a recovering Raiden, somewhat unsurely, who at first isn't ready and is guarded by Sonny, but then Raiden's all like,
"Let me go, Sonny."
And Raiden expresses a real lack of a will to live, so he's fine with fighting right next to Snake. Basically, the poor guy has a massive death wish, but Snake insists that's a pointless effort, as his own personal time is running out.
As long as you follow me, you'll never see the day.
You and I are both just pawns in this proxy war. But once this is over, we will have our freedom.
This results in one of my favorite exchanges in the whole series.
Raiden, 5 years ago, that's not what I meant.
I've got nothing to lose.
Now, again, Raiden has lost all will to live, but Snake, who is on a completely different area in life by now, the man who was the big influence to him in the first place, tells him he still has a life to live. I feel like Raiden in this place also still represents the player in a way. Someone who maybe took the wrong message from MGS2. Raiden now has a much more independent identity, but is now someone who has just completely given up. So Snake reminds him there is a reason to stay alive and protect people, and to fight for the hopes of staying alive.
Don't be an idiot. You know you've got someone to protect.
It was never going to work out for me. It even rained the day I was born.
You've got it all wrong. You were the lightning in that rain. You can still shine through the darkness.
Man, that's just such a badass quote from Snake. Overall, MGS4 Raiden is one of my favorite parts of the game. And coming from a guy whose favorite game ever is Metal Gear Solid 2, a game where Raiden's development is easily one of my favorites in any work of fiction ever, the fact that Metal Gear Solid 4 is able to continue that story in a way that's actually really great, I think it's really fucking impressive personally. In spite of this though, Raiden is still going through it. So clearly he needs more narrative convincing, poor guy.
Look at me. Do you see this? I have no future. You have a family.
I have no family. Been alone.
Damn, poor guy. Well, you know what? Everyone hits their emo cyborg phase at 31. Raiden then passes out. So with or without him, we're going to the place where it all began.
Shadow Moses awaits.
We fade in on Metal Gear Solid 1? Yeah, fully playable and everything. I won't lie, this is really cool. It's also one of the reasons MGS4 is still locked to the PS3, as this part is using the PS3's internal emulator. It also made my capture card freak out, so, anyways, Snake wakes up on a big ol' helicopter.
We're here. Shadow Moses.
Snake, of course, then gets dropped off here. And we travel through what feels like blinding snow. Miles and miles of pure whiteness. It's like you're walking through a Ken Carson concert. Until then, you see it, off in the distance, and you hear that music in the background. It's almost kind of a desolate, bittersweet feeling seeing this place. And you kind of just want to take it all in for a minute. Left in snowy ruin is Shadow Moses Island, completely abandoned and everything. It's like the entire area is kind of a ghost at this point, and that includes the memories Snake has of this place.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility. Excellent, Snake.
How's that sneaking suit working out?
Indeed. What's a Russian gunship doing here?
Wow, he must be crazy to fly Hind in this kind of weather.
A surveillance camera.
Snake, this is McDonnell Miller. Campbell told me about the situation here.
Now, is this all blatantly fan service? Yes. Am I gonna eat the fuck out of it, though? Yes. Plus, I mean, the atmosphere, the buildup, it's incredible. It kind of feels like going to an old establishment you and your ex used to frequent. The memories are still there, but time did not stand still. It's very haunting, but in a weird kind of comforting, nothing can hurt you kind of way. Also, of course, it's just cool to see Shadow Moses again, and to indulge in all the little Easter eggs. Snake will even comment if you point the camera straight down at him, mimicking the overhead view of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Overhead view. Just like old times. Now you're talking. Overhead view. That's more like it.
I mean, the moment I got inside this building, I started playing the old MGS1 Storage Warhead music on my iPod. Just for those nostalgic MGS1 vibes. And yeah, the nostalgia does not stop here either. Especially when we detour down to Otacon's old office. Past that one hallway with now dried blood. The one where Gray Fox murked all those motherfuckers. And right to where Otacon pissed himself.
It's not conjuring up any unpleasant memories, is it?
Thankfully, though, again, there's nothing here to hurt us, right? Psych! Because these hand enemies are everywhere. And because of that, they are annoying to fight. And on top of that... Okay, fuck you, game. Yeah, there's Gecko here, too. And dealing with them is just as annoying as it sounds.
Almost makes me nostalgic for the days when you needed a key card for every door.
We eventually encounter Crying Wolf, and a boss fight that would be kind of cool if tracking her down wasn't a pain in the ass and there weren't enemies distracting you. Let me put it this way. This is an attempt at a sniper fight, and it's better to use the grenade launcher in my experience. Yeah, the end boss fight, this certainly is not. And now I present to you my anti-woman gamer trick shot. We do get a railgun though, so I guess that's cool. But then we finally make it, the original Metal Gear Rex hangar. And right up this elevator lies Metal Gear Rex itself, completely broken and decommissioned. So nobody bothered to actually cover up for anything. Yeah, just see the giant death robot somewhere in Alaska. Nobody will find it. Well, lesson learned apparently, because guess what happened?
Look, the railgun's been removed.
We are so fucked.
Liquid doesn't need the whole Rex to launch his nuke. He only needs the railgun.
Damn it. Has it already been shipped?
I'm afraid so.
Even worse news, Vamp and Naomi are here. And Naomi is just caressing a Vamp, I guess. Oh no, what's Otacon gonna do about their 2-second romance? Even worse news, an army of Gecko are on their way. But Otacon might be able to get Metal Gear Rex working in our favor. However, in the meantime, Vamp comes down to fight us himself.
You'll amuse me until they arrive.
Man, these transitions still fucking rock, by the way. What doesn't really rock, though, is the actual Vamp boss fight, because the whole thing is literally shoot him until his health goes down far enough. But then, uh-oh, he doesn't actually die because he's a vampire and shit. So you gotta do it again and then equip the syringe and then stab him with it. So then the nanomachines can make him an un-vampire and make him just a normal dude. The best part about this phase is when the game gives up and drops his health bar for you. But it's yet again another underwhelming boss fight. And it's not like there wasn't a template either. We fought Vamp and MGS2, and that boss was perfectly fine. Obviously, I think a repeat would have been a bad idea and all, but at least give me something kinda interesting. Especially after MGS3, a downgrade like this is almost no excuse. But anyways, we give Vamp the vaccine and now he's a not vampire.
Now you're a mere mortal, like the rest of us.
You ready for some autism?
But then bad news, the Gecko army is here. But then suddenly, right on time, so is Raiden, fully recovered and ready to fight alongside us.
Snake, sorry to have kept you all waiting.
But of course, Vamp takes notice of this.
How about it, undying man? Care to die too?
Snake, This one is mine.
Raiden then jumps on top of Metal Gear Rex, while Vamp challenges him with,
Let us duel with blades.
Ignoring the penis knife, you know a sword is a blade, right? But now it's time for the Raiden and Vamp rematch. While Snake, on the ground, locks and loads against the incoming Gecko army, initiating the game's first split-screen section. I'm not sure what you would call this, but basically on the left, you're fighting the self-destructing Gecko, while on the right, there's a cutscene playing of Raiden fighting Vamp. And it's a really cool set piece, and no other game has done this to my knowledge. And it's all in real time too, which is really impressive. I can't believe Kojima predicted Subway Surfers footage. So Raiden finally kills Vamp, for good this time, promise.
No more mediocre boss fights from you.
Otacon then gets Metal Gear Rex working again.
This thing might come in handy after all.
Then Naomi comes down and goes blah blah blah, Vamp was never immortal, whatever. Yes, I know the answer is nanomachines, get on with it. She then gives him more nanomachine vaccines to make him die of autism. My big question is, though, why was Naomi doing all that to Vamp earlier? But whatever, we all know the real answer is that Kojima was horny anyways. Turns out Liquid is starting Outer Haven.
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 Outer Haven. Outer.
Naomi then tells Snake he's going to die.
When all of this is over, you'll have no choice but to accept death.
Naomi then gives herself the vaccine, and turns out she was a vampire the whole time. Well, actually not really, just has the same nanomachines as Vamp, because the entire time Naomi had cancer, and she was really only alive to kill Vamp, as she felt responsible for creating him. And with all this, Naomi then dies, which I probably should feel sad about if there was more to her character throughout the game.
You have such beautiful eyes.
Man, what a downgrade Naomi is in this game. This is a character who, by the way, in the original MGS1, had what I felt was an amazing character arc. In that game, she was a character who got into genetic research because she had no idea who she was. Her own identity of Naomi Hunter was taken from someone else, which in a game about how genes don't make you and how it's you that makes you, makes for a very powerful character overall. So it's very disappointing when this character is just a very wordy plot device in MGS4. I do feel bad for Otacon though, he was deprived of pussy after all.
Let's get moving.
Why does it always end this way?
Otacon! Come on! Pull yourself together!
You know what, Otacon? You and me both, man. But man, what a disappointing usage of Naomi Hunter. It really sucks, and I don't know how the game can possibly win me back. Wait a minute. Oh my god, there's no way. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god! You get to pilot the robot? Dude, the PS3 can barely contain this. How does he do it? How does he do it? There's no way this could ever be topped ever.
It's not over. Not yet.
Holy shit, I'm gonna come.
So, Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Rex versus Liquid Ocelot in the Metal Gear Ray. Well, now I see where all the budget for the boss fights went. Jesus Christ. So we beat Metal Gear Ray with the Metal Gear Rex, and Liquid decides to just troll us as a result.
Fox.
Think again.
This guy is just embracing cartoon bad guy now.
Liquid!
On the way to do your mom. Line was too long. Bro, what is happening? Okay, so this is Mount Rushmore, right? But instead of the US presidents, it's Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, Solidus Snake, and Big Boss. And it's on top of a repurposed Arsenal gear from Metal Gear Solid 2, which he crashed into New York. Do you now understand why I can't hate this game? This, by the way, is indeed Outer Haven. So he may be fucked, but also so is my brain and I can't comprehend anything right now. But Raiden, who's trapped under rubble, sorry I forgot to mention that. I'm too focused on Mount Snakemore right now. Cuts off his own arm to free himself. And this, by the way, is what I looked like during the Metal Gear Ray boss fight. Anyways, Arsenal Gear, or Outer Haven, is about to crash into Snake, but thankfully Raiden, with the last of his strength, saves him. But this means Raiden sacrifices himself in the process.
Snake! Hurry!
Raiden then sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
Jack, do you remember the day we met?
All while my Vietnam flashbacks play in the background.
We watched King Kong in your apartment a bunch of times that night.
In the meantime, a helicopter comes in to pick up Snake, and we get our next mission briefing. This time we're on the USS Missouri, an old World War II battleship not under SOP, commanded by, of all people, Mei Ling, mysteriously missing her thick Chinese accent.
That's why we need to destroy GW from the inside, before attacking Haven itself.
It's an honor to speak to a living legend like yourself.
Yeah, I mentioned this back in my Metal Gear Solid 1 analysis, but both Naomi and Mei Ling had their accents removed for whatever reason, which was also the case for the Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, The Twin Snakes, on GameCube.
I can't believe I'm being hit on by the famous Solid Snake.
What's this? I'm being hit on by the famous Solid Snake?
I didn't have a real family either. Just a big brother who put me through school. I didn't have a real family either. Just a big brother who put me through school.
I guess it makes a little bit more sense lore-wise. However, even though these two are using their Twin Snakes voices in this game, the game is still flashing back to the PS1 version. That's really weird. Which one is canon, Kojima? But whatever. Point is, Mei Ling is back. She was mentioned earlier in the game, by the way, but she really isn't that important to the story at all. In fact, the only notable thing about her is that she likes older men, apparently.
Rumor has it she caught the eye of some lecherous old admiral who got her promoted. She always did have a thing for older men.
What did Kojima mean by that? Also, for no reason, Mei Ling drops something and we get multiple ass shots? Bro, is Kojima, like, okay? Anyway, so Outer Haven is...
Liquid's very own Death Star.
Yeah, okay, we get it, Kojima, you watch movies. Meaning that infiltrating it will be much the same. Except, we're the bomb and there's a giant microwave oven on the way there.
A giant microwave oven. You'd have to have a death wish to go in there. Sounds like the perfect job for me.
Snake, this isn't the time for your stupid jokes.
The man is dying. Give him a break. Welp everyone, this is it, the finale to beat Liquid once and for all. And the game knows how big this moment is, cause check out this slow-mo walk. And yeah, I can't even complain, this part is tough. Also, Raiden's been saved off screen.
Raiden, how is he?
He'll live, but he's in no shape to fight.
We had to pull his reboot card out from the ocean.
The only people I have left to rely on are Marilyn, him.
Kind of an unknown quantity, isn't he?
Okay, now you're just taunting me. Also, Drebin is just here.
What are you doing here?
See, even Snake's confused. Smoking albino monkey. Anyway, Snake, Meryl, and Johnny are going to Outer Haven, marking one last finale for our heroes.
Let's finish it, Snake. Let this be our last battle.
However, as we launch in, it's made very apparent that this will not be an easy task, considering that now we're literally in the belly of the beast.
Good job, Snake. You made it on board. Welcome to Haven.
There are frog soldiers and Gecko all over the place, making this segment very annoying. It's also the last real stealth segment of the game, which is kind of a shame because it kinda sucks. Especially when I feel the game didn't do a very good job teaching you its mechanics. It's a damn shame because I really do think there are some great mechanics in MGS4. But the actual level design and the way the game is structured doesn't really allow for it to shine. But either way I luck out, the game lets me win and I make it into Arsenal Gear. But then suddenly we head inside and see Meryl unconscious. We're then surrounded by frog units, and we enter into a big old combat section. But then Meryl's possessed by someone who totally isn't Psycho Mantis, and she's about to shoot herself, not unlike a Psycho Mantis. But thankfully she's saved, and sadly it's by Johnny.
Johnny!
You gotta kill yourself.
This leads into the next B&B unit boss fight, this time against not Psycho Mantis.
Psycho Mantis.
Psycho Mantis.
No, you see, this is Screaming Mantis. And unlike Psycho Mantis, she's really uninteresting, and her boss fight is very mid. It is one of the better boss battles in this game, which really isn't saying much, because all this fight really boils down to is shooting the Psycho Mantis doll out of her hand, and then jerking off the controller until she dies. It is cool that she has both the Sorrow and Psycho Mantis as little doll things, and you can collect them both as bonus weapons, but they're ultimately useless because this is literally the last combat encounter of the whole game. Oh no, you're using the 6-axis function! I'm turning into a woman! You know, honestly, it's hard enough trying to take this scene seriously because of the B&B unit themselves, but it's even harder when I start recognizing the scream sound effects.
I don't want to hear them anymore!
I finally figured out what to do when someone knocks while you're using
Get out of my body.
Shit, dog, if you say so. Trick shot on that bitch. I'm a gay. Oh, also, there's a Psycho Mantis scene for some reason. Well, this one's actually kind of funny because he tries reading your memory card and shit, only to go, wait a minute, there's no memory card.
What? Where is your data? Where is it saved? Memory card.
He then tries vibrating your controller, which, okay, for a bit of context, the PS3 launched with the 6-axis controller, a controller with 0 vibration functions because apparently it's a last-gen feature. Sony then realized that this was a really dumb decision and released the DualShock 3 controller, which did have vibration. However, if you're using the original 6-axis controller, Psycho Mantis will go,
no vibration either.
No more massages for you then.
However, if you're using a DualShock 3, the cutscene actually changes to where he celebrates the glorious return of vibration and then dies. Now that's actually fun and cool. But anyways, now shit's getting crazier. With Meryl and Snake completely surrounded, but she tells Snake to go on ahead, no matter how much it hurts her deep down inside.
We'll meet again on the other side.
We then have to do the dangerous task of holding up on the analog stick. Oh no! And meanwhile, Meryl's getting more and more cornered until she's saved by...
Meryl!
Fucking Johnny.
Meryl. I'll never leave you alone again.
Your life literally is as valuable as a summer ant. Also, turns out Johnny has 0 nanomachines because he's anti-vax because he's scared of needles. And that's why he's so clumsy and dumb the whole game.
Every time we had mandatory shots, I ducked out.
Don't tell me you knew this was gonna happen.
Nah. I just hate needles.
He also only joined Meryl's team to simp for her. Like, I'm serious, bro. What the fuck?
But if you're afraid of shots, why'd you join my team?
I wanted to be near you.
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose.
To protect you.
You should kill yourself now.
Johnny?
Meryl, I've always loved you.
And give somebody else a piece of that oxygen.
Ever since Shadow Moses, when I first laid eyes on you.
That's covered up so we can breathe inside of this blue trap bubble.
Meryl, marry me.
What are you here for? To worship me? Kill yourself.
I have to say, no.
Well, thank God she said no, because it would be...
I'd just rather do things my way. Johnny. Marry me.
You're gonna stay on my dick until you die.
And I want a real wedding. With flowers and a cake. It's been my dream since I was a little girl.
No, it wasn't. You wanted to be a soldier when you were a little girl. Alright, so here we are in Arsenal Gear. Snake then starts having a nanomachine seizure, but the nanomachine antidote isn't working. But as he's surrounded, Raiden then comes in and saves the day.
I am lightning. The rain transformed. Snake, leave this to me.
Raiden tells Snake he'll go to the server room, but Snake insists on going first. And I just love this interaction. Check it out.
Your body may be a machine, but your heart is human. You've got a life to go back to.
She means nothing to me now.
Raiden, look at me.
You know what though, Raiden? Type shit, man.
You still have your youth. Don't waste it. You can start over.
Man, again, this is just a great extension of MGS2. And even as Snake and Raiden are really going through it, they're both still there for each other, and that's badass. They're bros, dude. So Raiden stands back to protect Snake while he enters the hallway, which is where we get the microwave hallway scene.
Snake, that place is saturated with microwaves.
So So this is another split-screen styled cutscene here, and it is by far the best one. On the top, you see the characters fighting on the verge of defeat. In the middle, you hear the intro song of the game, a song that's already super haunting anyways. But most importantly, on the bottom, you see Snake going through the infamous microwave hallway, and yeah, seeing this guy deteriorate in this thing is sad to watch. And to make things worse, you actually have to play it too, and that's the reason why the triangle button is covered in blood by now. After a whole game of seeing Snake get punished on the verge of death, this scene, man, it just, I wish there was more I could say, honestly. When people think MGS4, this is one of the big scenes they think of in this game, and for good reason. This scene is soul-crushing and executed so well. Get up, Snake! Thankfully though, Snake barely makes it to the core, and the whole thing is like a weird server room graveyard.
So this is where the Concord servers went.
But then after a big ol' action scene, Snake uploads a new virus to GW, which conveniently stops all the bad guys in the whole world. And there is exposition somewhere about it, but this video is long enough. But turns out Naomi helped out on the virus in secret, and she, alongside Sonny, made a virus that would kill all the AIs from Metal Gear Solid 2, which she revealed in the video set to play after this all would have happened.
What she created was an anti-AI fox dye.
Oh wow, that's cool. I really hope it's not called something stupid.
But this virus's name is Fox Alive.
Alright, Kojima, that's enough. Snake then has a seizure and passes out, but then wakes up on top of Arsenal gear right under Liquid Ocelot.
Look, the war is over.
And to get this, okay? Everything we've done up to this point was all part of Liquid Ocelot's plan. Because the plan isn't actually to take over the Patriots, but rather just destroy them, period. And he took over Arsenal gear so Snake could have incentive to do so. And this guy is just the ultimate gaslighter.
Our minds free from their prisons.
But he also wants to have one final battle with Solid Snake. Look, don't worry about why, just enjoy the moment.
We still have a score to settle. Show me what you've got, Snake!
And honestly, enjoy the moment we do. Or at least I do, just seeing these two old men duke it out. Liquid injects himself for whatever reason, I guess. Why does he do that? I don't know. I don't care. It looks cool. These two men are gonna fight until someone drops fucking dead. And this cutscene does a great job establishing that simple fact, okay? The best part gotta be when these two old men then at their wits' end inject each other with nanomachines to refuel themselves with energy. This is that old man yaoi the kids are into, right? But okay, seriously, the final boss in this game is great. Hey, check that out, the second good boss in this thing. There really isn't much to it though, it's just punching and kicking essentially. Kind of acting as a tribute to Metal Gear Solid 1's final boss. But just the context, man, and the way this boss fight is framed. Cause it starts off with Metal Gear Solid 1's health bars and music. But then you get the second phase with Metal Gear Solid 2's music. And to reflect this, the camera gets a little bit closer to the characters. Not unlike the Solid as Snake boss fight in MGS2. It's like the whole series is just flashing before your eyes here. And then we of course get that third phase. Yeah, easy win for me, dude. On top of Snake Eater, we also get the MGS3 health bar, and the camera's closer. Also, there's a scene you can get if you fail a QuickTime event where Ocelot kisses you. What did Kojima mean by this one? You know, as if two men grappling on top of each other wasn't homoerotic enough. As the fight goes on though, Snake and Ocelot get more and more weak, and eventually the fight becomes just slow punching each other, until finally Liquid Ocelot just falls down. By the way, his real ulterior motive was just to cause the world to go into chaos.
America will descend into chaos. It'll be the Wild West all over again.
So essentially he's the Jonkler, but after a long brutal battle, Liquid Ocelot is finally dead.
You're pretty good.
You're pretty good. Pretty good.
However, thankfully, conveniently, the world isn't thrown into chaos because Sonny was able to save the modern digital ecosystems.
She analyzed Naomi's black box and separated the Patriots' control system from the vital lifelines of society. She cut off the Patriots' control while preserving modern civilization.
So essentially, an 8-year-old girl killed the AI Illuminati while keeping modern civilization completely intact. You know, I want to say this is haphazard, but do you know how much shit happens in this game? Also, fun fact, from this point on, from the end of the Ocelot boss fight, up until the very end of the game, you are going to witness the longest video game cutscene of all time. At a whopping, Guinness says it's 27, but it's more like 71 minutes. But what this achievement alone won't describe to you is what actually happens in this cutscene.
Big boss.
Except, hold on, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let me just take you through this one step at a time. So the first part begins at Meryl's wedding, where she's getting ready in her pretty wedding dress, but then Colonel Campbell comes in. Meryl then points a gun at him, but then gives it over to him and is all like, I'll give you a second chance if you walk me down the aisle. So now with Campbell redeemed, Meryl and Johnny are about to get married, but then Drebin swerves in the Lamborghini Urus, and he makes the wedding better by throwing a bunch of flowers and doves and shit, and also the monkey is an alcoholic, and so am I.
Drunk, tired, and pissed off.
And to my dismay, Meryl and Johnny get married.
Welcome to my nightmare.
Welcome to my nightmare. Welcome to my nightmare. Welcome to my nightmare. Welcome to my nightmare.
Welcome to my nightmare.
We then cut to Raiden in the hospital, where Rose and her gray-haired son visit him, who Raiden didn't know existed because, and I'm not kidding here, Rose and Campbell were lying the entire time. You see, Rose told Raiden she had a miscarriage, but she really didn't.
You said miscarriage.
I lied.
And both her and Campbell weren't actually in a relationship at all either, but in reality, they were just pretending to protect their son from the Patriots.
Roy pretended to be my husband, to protect me and our son, to shield us from Patriot eyes.
You see, even Raiden's confused. Look at him! You gotta understand, the love triangle was already wacky. One of the people involved is Colonel fucking Campbell. But now it's even more wacky because it was all a lie to get Raiden to kill the Illuminati? It's not even the wackiest love triangle in the game. Meryl marries a guy who shits himself!
Like a scene from Beauty and the Beast.
By the way, I just realized, where did Snake go? He wasn't at Meryl's wedding, he wasn't visiting Raiden? Where'd he... Oh! Yeah, we gotta back up a minute here. So, reminder, Snake's body's at risk of creating a giant epidemic, so Snake has to take out himself to prevent that from happening.
One last punishment I must endure.
Snake drops to his knees right in front of Big Boss's grave, and he attempts to off himself. And yeah, this is a super hard to watch scene. Like, we've connected to this dude over the course of multiple games, and we've already seen him suffer enough throughout this thing. So seeing this ending for the character, it's... Jesus. There is one more scene after this, and turns out the Patriots were actually controlling Drebin the whole time, and same for all the protagonists too, but the Patriots just didn't expect them to crash the whole AI system.
I don't think they expected you to crash their system and wipe them out.
Point is, the Patriots fucked up and are dead now. Sonny has also made a new friend and it's adorable. Aww.
We can't understand each other's language, but we're having fun.
Man, when a 9-year-old girl is less racist than the rest of America, you know you're fucked up. Sonny then asks about Snake.
When is Snake coming back?
Yeah, about that. Otacon then holds back tears knowing he won't see Snake ever again.
Snake had a hard life. He needs some time to rest.
However, the game then ends with Otacon and Sonny staring at the sunset together, knowing that with the Patriots gone, a new future can finally arise. And it's a nice reminder that no matter how dark things get, there is a hope for the future. Of course, though, this isn't the ending, far from it. First, okay, the credits roll. And you go, okay, that was a very sad ending. Big Boss! Oh shit, wait, Snake didn't kill himself? Oh, hooray!
That's right. Good.
Wait, who the fuck?
It's been a long time, Snake. Big Boss.
Big Boss was alive the whole time! So Snake tries to fight him, but Big Boss instead hugs him.
Let it go, my son. I
I'm not here to fight. It's over. Time for you to put aside the gun and live.
Now, we'll analyze all this in a bit, but first questions first, how is this guy still alive?
How can you still be alive?
Well, you see, back in Not Prague, it turns out his body was actually not Big Boss's body, but actually...
That body, liquid burned on the Volta, wasn't mine. That was the body of a clone. Solidus.
Oh, of course, it was Solidus the entire time. Also, Ocelot wasn't actually possessed by Liquid Snake at all, but instead he, I kid you not, hypnotized himself to think that he was.
Ocelot, in order to fool the system, used nanomachines and psychotherapy to transplant Liquid's personality onto his own.
Well, thank God. I was thinking the arm possession thing was a bit unrealistic. In the franchise where you have to fight a literal ghost at one point, Big Boss then goes on about how harmful the Patriots really were, and how eventually the automated AI would create the entire war economy. Now, we've already heard this throughout the game, but there's something different here, because this time, Big Boss has brought Zero with him.
It all started with him. Zero.
And in his old age, he's in a complete vegetable state.
This man was the source of it all. And he doesn't even realize it. He's completely unaware of the fact that he led the world to the brink of ruin.
However, what Big Boss says next is really significant, and even now really sticks with me.
Even with so much bad blood between us, it's funny. Now that I'm actually face to face with him again, the hatred is gone.
And knowing the context of Big Boss, a man who's been operating under resentment for God knows how long, it's hard to understand why Big Boss wouldn't hate Zero, someone who ruined the entire world. But he was, at one point, Big Boss's friend, and those old emotions can never really go away, can they? And furthermore, a lack of hatred does not mean Big Boss is entirely satisfied.
All I feel is a deep sense of longing and pity. Did Zero really hate me? Or did he fear me? It's too late to ask him now.
Big Boss then reflects on Zero's growth, and how his reign was enabled by Big Boss and the rest of the Patriots. And the way Big Boss explains it really has you thinking.
Everything has its beginning, but it doesn't start at one. It starts long before that, in chaos.
It's a pretty timely and relevant nowadays, as oftentimes political corruption happens beneath our noses, and chaos serves as merely a distraction, a place that allows for it all to grow.
The world is born from zero. The moment zero becomes one is the moment the world springs to life. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 10, 10 becomes 100. Taking it all back to one solves nothing.
So, in order to truly kill the Patriots, and truly redeem himself for letting Zero grow too big, Big Boss has to, with all the hatred gone, kill Zero.
We realized too late that we had created a beast. His sin was ours. And for that reason, I'm taking it upon myself to send Zero back to nothing.
Big Boss also reveals that the Fox Die in Snake's body is what killed Eva and Ocelot. You know, the one planted by Drebin way earlier in the game. So the whole time, Snake had 2 Fox Dies in his body. Are you confused yet? I hope not. But also, turns out Snake won't turn into an epidemic weapon because the new Fox Die in his body is canceling out the old one, I think.
The new Fox Die inside you continues to multiply. At the same time, It is preventing the old, mutated Foxdie from reproducing.
However, the new Foxdie will still end up doing the same thing the old one did, but as Big Boss explains,
that is, if you manage to live that long.
There is, however, one more person this new Foxdie targets. That person being a Big Boss. However, as this dude is dying, he tells Snake to
do me a favor, will you? Take me over to her.
Oh my god, Game, you can't do this to me! Snake then asks Big Boss if he's going to die.
Am I going to die? Everyone dies. You can't stop it. You can't run away from it.
God damn it, this is narrative cheating! Stop it!
Let me tell you something. Don't waste the life you have left fighting.
Damn, those are some real words to live by. And again, the context of Big Boss just aids all that. He knows from clear experience what wasting your life fighting is like.
If you'd been in my place back then, maybe you wouldn't have made the same mistakes that I did. Ever since the day I killed the boss with my own hands, I was already dead.
And just finally hearing this from a character who we've only heard about in Legends, and only really seeing him in one prequel game before he really goes off the rails, it really does make the whole thing more effective, I feel. Like Eva implies, Big Boss's place in the series is more like a religious figure. So the only time he shows that kind of self-aware humanity is before and after everything. By being undeified, he finally understands what it means to protect the world, and what the boss was exactly fighting for in the first place.
Boss. You were right. Oh, it's not about changing the world. It's about doing our best to leave the world the way it is. It's about respecting the will of others and believing in your own. Isn't that what you fought for?
This whole scene just wraps a great bow around everything the games have been building up towards. The themes of finding your own beliefs and believing in them, the dangers of anger and disillusionment, politics versus real human life and the shaky morality of it all. This scene alone wraps all that up masterfully. It's beautiful.
At last, I understand the meaning behind what you did. At last, I understand the truth behind your courage.
And with the last of his strength, Big Boss salutes to the boss one more time. Again, like, come on, this has to be narrative cheating, dude. But Big Boss then continues, discussing how all the major Metal Gear villains were fighting for liberty. But now, with the Patriots dead, Snake is finally free to live his own life, free from politics and the legacy of Big Boss.
But you have been given freedom. Freedom to be outside. It's time for you to see the outside world with your own eyes. Your body and your soul are your own.
It kind of feels like a graduation after playing all these games, and a final confirmation to let go. With the series finally over, it's time for us to live our own lives, and to find the meaning of that for ourselves.
Forget about us. Live for yourself and find a new lease on life. Boss, you only need one snake. No, the world would be better off without snakes.
And without any words, still processing everything around him, Snake then lights one more cigar for Big Boss, with Big Boss then remarking, "This is good, isn't it?" As the game then ends silently on this shot. And as the credits roll, we hear the song Here's to You. Now this song is in fact a cover of a 1971 song, which was made for the Italian movie Sacco and Vanzetti, a movie based on two real-life Italian immigrants who were involved in one of the most controversial trials in US history. You see, these two were tried for murder. Now, whether they were or weren't guilty is kind of up in the air. However, the trial against them was deeply biased, as they were two openly anarchist Italian immigrants during the Red Scare, and the two were found guilty and eventually executed by electric chair. However, the lyrics of Here's to You is very weirdly optimistic, inspired by the actual words of Vanzetti himself, where even in the face of execution, a very wrongful and unjust one, it's one that can hopefully make the future rethink itself. In their injustice, they'll be martyrs. The last and final moments will be theirs, and that agony will be their triumph. It makes you wonder if history is soon to repeat itself, but it's too soon to tell. Now, believe it or not, MGS4's original ending also involved an execution. Yeah, no joke. Originally, Kojima wanted Snake and Otacon to turn themselves in and be executed for their crimes. I'm not sure what crimes those would be. Maybe that was the point, I don't know. However, his staff hated this and he ended up changing the ending. But funny enough, I think the newer ending is a way better fit for the song, because throughout the whole game, Snake is at the expense of everything. From the rapid aging to the mutating fox dye to even the characters around him. There's no denying it, MGS4 is kind of a disappointment, with weird, off-putting decisions that really don't work all that much. But in the end, they do weirdly work because it relegates Snake to a blue rose. This, by the way, is when the Beauty and the Beast allegory finally hit me properly. The Beauty and the Beast allegory isn't really about anything in Beauty and the Beast, but rather about Metal Gear Solid's place among fairy tales and mythologies. The series is now culturally relevant and will be passed down. It's a meme itself, and therefore that makes Metal Gear Solid a mythology. However, to give it a Beauty and the Beast fairy tale ending would be missing the point of the series. Otherwise, the franchise will be at risk of killing itself, just like Snake's own deadly disease in the game. You see, in the Beauty and the Beast allegory, Snake isn't the Beauty or the Beast or Gaston or anything. He's the Blue Rose, a rapidly aging and decaying plot device.
You said it yourself, Snake. There's nothing inside you can pass on to the next generation.
I know. A blue rose. There won't be any happy Beauty and the Beast ending for me.
He exists to give everyone else their happy ending, but unless he wants to kill them, there's nothing else for him here. At least this is all what Snake thinks, because we, the player, we know better. We know different. Solid Snake has a story, so did all these other characters. And like many other things, it's our responsibility to pass it on.
That's why you need me as a witness. Someone on the outside to bear witness to your final days. Someone to pass on your story. Not that I'm the only witness, but I'll remember everything you were and stick with you to the end.
So even as we see Snake deteriorate in agony, and even as we see him not get the happy ending we want him to get, we know that his final moments in getting peace with Big Boss is triumphant, and his final moments of freedom will be truly his. And even if the character says otherwise, we know Solid Snake has stuff to pass on, as he literally exists within this fictional video game franchise. Whether it's a real-life murder trial or a message in a video game, we have a job to pass all this on. But one can only do so if you let go of the anger holding you back. Changing the world out of vengeance will create your own downfall, and you won't realize it until it's too late. But if you choose life and choose to live life, you'll be able to find triumph even in agony. And it's why, in spite of every dumb decision, I can't bring myself to hate this game. Because in spite of all its problems, it's still somehow a beautiful work of art, and the perfect ending for the Metal Gear franchise. It's a game that brings back all its characters and asks you, did you really want them to come back? You get outcomes you didn't want in the first place. But then the real ending happens, where you're instructed to let go, and Solid Snake finally finds his own peace. And the thing is, after this game ends, you know Snake is going to die. But the game never shows you that. It lets him live for just a little bit longer. And by passing on these stories, in a way, he still lives after the game ends. This is not the ending you wanted, but who cares? Snake's final moments are purely his own. And the same can be said for for us. We can choose the lives we want to live, and it's our job to pass the torch into the future. So even if it is imperfect, Metal Gear Solid 4 is still the perfect ending for the series. Obviously, my love for Metal Gear is pretty deeply personal, and all 4 of these games mean something to me. They remind me to let go and hold out a hope, even if things seem utterly hopeless. There's still people out there worth protecting, and things not ending the way you want them to doesn't mean you can't find a peace somewhere else. Metal Gear Solid 4 is an imperfect game, but it's also the perfect ending to what I consider to be a perfect 4-part story. And what Hideo Kojima and his incredible team were able to accomplish will never cease to mean something to me. And Metal Gear Solid 4, by being the worst masterpiece ever, is the best ending the series could have. Because like every other game, it reminds you to choose life. And by choosing life, you can find the one thing that I believe every human is looking for: hope.
This is good, isn't it?
Here's to you.